Here we are, people. It's that time, it's that place in the universe for another episode of IRSO RI. This is 31. I'm sitting down with Emily Holman. We've been on Threads, so it's totally this is like the first time we're meeting each other, seeing each other face to face. Super duper exciting, super ridiculous, but that's just me. So what, when, it's still Sunday, September 1st. I recorded 2 episodes today, which is cool. Could make my life a little bit easier. And I'm at my job. I don't know where Emily is. You don't have to let people know. Does not matter. But we're doing this remotely because she's in the South California. I'm in Northern California. Couldn't do it face to face. Why? It's just for a good time to express and let art be had. And how is through the internet like it always is, or yeah, through the internet like it always is, because people are listening to this or watching it through the internet. So, to my knowledge, and this the way that I met Emily was through Threads. I didn't have enough time or take the time to read any of her writing, but she is a writer of, gonna guess fiction, but I could be wrong. And besides that, I am blissfully or sadly ignorant of any type of art that she creates. So Emily, if you want to introduce yourself a little bit, since I'm not very well versed or well aware, I would greatly appreciate it for the listeners and or viewers.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm Emily. I am a writer. I write primarily fiction, a lot of like horror and weird fiction, and kind of more along the lines of like paranormal or supernatural type fiction. And then I also write poetry and I paint sometimes too.
Awesome. Fantastic. What do you feel? Because I have had gone through different seasons or stages of my life where I like really didn't like horror, and then I was kind of like had this girlfriend in high school kind of like warmed me up to it. So I was just curious, like what would be for you like good horror and what would be like bad horror?
I think that for me, good horror is like something that is maybe a little unsettling or a little bit like, yeah, scary as horror is one to be, but also says something about the world that we live in and the society that we're in. And then I don't know if there's like bad horror because I feel like that's objective, but to me it's like horror that objectifies women and their struggles, especially regarding things like sexual assault, and especially if that is being written and or directed by a man.
I feel you. Feel you. Let's see. There was something. The heck was it? It was not the Train to Busan. It was what you had said about I think the movie's called Parasite. It's a Korean horror film. Because you had said about or I can't remember the exact wording that gives you like a stance or a take on the societal problems. And I'm just curious, I guess, to get your thoughts on. I don't even know how long ago that movie came out of, but have you seen Parasite? And if you have like your thoughts on like that perspective of I guess the classism, the extremes of classism that they're showcased in that film.
I've unfortunately not seen that movie, but yesterday I did watch a different horror movie that I could speak on about kind of societal roles. My friend introduced me to the Alien series, and we ended up watching Prometheus, which is a sci-fi horror movie that takes place before the original Alien movie. And I really ended up loving that movie, not because it was like good or bad or anything, but mostly because the lead was a woman, and she, through the alien movie and the alien creatures, had to uh, go and find a machine that would help her give her an emergency abortion, but it was like calibrated towards men. And I think that it really, in its gruesome kind of way, it really kind of showed like how dangerous almost it is to not have access to abortions and to like that kind of medication, because it is very dangerous to do it yourself or do it kind of under the radar. It could just be unsafe.
I haven't watched that film in a while. I think I definitely either seen enough recaps of it. I just don't remember there being a abortion scene or them having to do any abortion. I mean, it isn't because the whole alien, like at least in the original one, or the one that's like I've seen the most times and I recall the most vividly, it would be like the face huggers like put it in you and then it like pops out of you when it's like after it's done eating your organs or whatever. But yeah, um, I just abortion is a pretty intense thing, no matter why it's happening. It just I feel that it's the last. It should be. I would like to think it should be the last resort of being responsible with your sexual energy. Should be like the first thing of not getting practicing safe sex or not having sex with a bunch of different people to accidentally get someone pregnant because I would could imagine it to be emotionally debilitating for someone to have to undergo one and to have to be the option that you choose in your lifetime. And it's definitely something that yeah, if it's to not have it available makes it definitely infinitely more dangerous for someone to have to undergo one if that's the way in which the cookies crumbled in their lifetime and the decisions that they've made to lead up to that uh, juncture in their thing in their life. But I guess trying to bring it back to art. What is art to you?
To me, art is anything that you create, and anything that you want to call art, I feel like is a valid term to describe it. Just kind of as long as it's part of like something that you create yourself and is a part of you, I think that that is my definition of art.
Very I don't even know if it's really the way to say it. Data or dataistic. It's this I believe the artist was French. This is from the episode where I talked to Stephen Roach and also Wispy Cauliflower. They kind of put me onto this train of thought that it's in the eye of the beholder, but also that because an artist can just say that anything is art, it really opens up the lane of conceptually what people agree upon it to be. And it's this weird interplay between the person creating it and the person receiving it. A lot of things can be art that you don't ever actually even put out into the world because there's this like transmutation or alchemical process with which you're taking how you're feeling and putting it into a medium, and then that can be healing for the individual person, and that you don't even ever have to put it out to the world for it to have that effect on you as a person. So definitely agree that art can be this all-encompassing thing if you want it to be. I think there's a slight distinction insofar as that like craftsmen or people that are like building and doing trades wouldn't consider what they do art, but there's like a beauty in that geometrical symmetry of building a building that like serves a function or like is a house or a home, but that because they don't say that it's art, that it isn't art, but you could say that there's beauty in it. But that's just how I feel presently. Maybe that'll change over time. Phew. So I guess just we'll start right at the beginning of your hero's journey or your experience being a human being. What drew you to writing and art in your life?
Yeah, I've been drawn to reading and writing ever since I was very little. My uncle Howard lived next door with my grandparents, and I would go over there quite often. And he had a degree in English. He was also a fiction writer and would tutor people in English. And I was just always so in awe of him. And he was always very inspiring to me. And he would always encourage me to use my imagination and to tell these stories. Even when I couldn't physically write, I would have adults in my life help me write these things down. And that kind of just like shaped me as a person from the very beginning. And then yeah, writing horror specifically, which right now is the genre that I write the most in, I think. I was always really scared of things as a kid, actually, and I'd never really engaged with horror up until very recently. I ended up watching a series on YouTube in which people go out and they like hunt ghosts or talk to spirits or attempt to talk to spirits, and they go to haunted places and they have very interesting equipment and they ask questions and they tell about the history of the homes and the tragedies that were there. And I think that just really inspired me because along with like the paranormal and the spiritual came the history and the tragedy. And I think that's just a really interesting mix of things. And writing generally just helps me kind of get my ideas out on somewhere, even as you said, if it doesn't see the light of day or if it doesn't leave the notes app on my phone, it's still art to me because I created it. And that kind of thing has really helped me through just like coping with a lot of different things. And it's really been helpful. And I think it's a beautiful process for me.
Totally. It's there's like these I've so far doing this podcast and being an artist, I've had people tell me they're doing this. It breaks it down to like three different arenas. It's like visual, performative, and healing, and that each one is sort of distinct, but there's just huge overlaps. It's like a Venn diagram with all three circles. So maybe just like right in the dead center is just like art in general. So just right in there. And then paranormal, the spooky. Personally, it's like obviously it's terrifying. Can be terrifying. That unsettling thing of like human beings not being the biggest, strongest animal at the top of the food chain. That there are things that are beyond us that we don't. Our egos don't really like that because it's like there's no power, there's no control when something else has this like influence over you or his ability to affect you that you can't return the favor for. And personally, I'm just very curious human being, so I like to know like where the lines and boundaries of reality actually are, and for my curiosity's sake, and maybe for the curiosity's sake of the listeners, because if this topic comes up, the paranormal or like extraordinary, I just am curious if you have any personal anecdotes or experiences with spirits, aliens, Bigfoot, things that are just like some people are very like they definitely are a thing, and other people are it's I guess divisive in a way. But any thoughts?
Yeah, I haven't really like seen or heard or experienced like ghosts or spirits kind of in my waking life, I would say, but I have when close loved ones and people that are close to me have passed away, I have had dreams in which they'll come and talk to me, which I do believe is them. And that's been really just like a really kind of beautiful experience to have, especially considering like grief and loss is really hard and it's comes at you in a lot of different ways, but it seems to me so far that every time I have lost somebody, then I've been able to speak with them for a little while after, and that's been really special.
That's awesome. I've yeah, dreaming is a very powerful I don't want to say medicine or tool, but it's just I guess just process of our psyche that I don't know if has any actual scientific backing to it, but there's and I don't recall exactly where I heard this piece of information, but it's like dreaming keeps us sane because it's like this time in which our physical body like is completely still and it allows our mind to play out any like insane thoughts or feelings that we've had throughout the day, whether we were aware of them or not. Like that's kind of like why, in my opinion, dreams are so either fantastical or allow you to transverse the spirit realm or different dimensions of reality through dreaming, is because it's like, or yeah, this portal back to where I think consciousness originates from, which is a whole vast idea in itself. And I will bring this question up now because it was related to what I had said. Uh, in the, I guess, the vein of originality and art, where do you think originality originates from, or what do you feel or think that it means to be original?
I think that's really hard to answer because I feel like a lot of different concepts and core ideas have been repeated many different times, but it's kind of said or done in ways that have been different from the past. And especially like considering AI is being used for writing and things like that, it's sometimes hard to know what's original and what isn't, but like holding trust in the person whose art it is and like feeling like they're sharing a piece of themselves instead of something that was just created by a machine or typed in a prompt and then had it write it for you. I think that it to be original comes from creating art as a part of you.
Yeah, understandable. I guess since you brought it up, like, what are your thoughts or opinions or feelings around AI as a tool, or just its the implications of it being existing as a thing?
I think AI as a tool is different than using AI to completely do something for you, especially considering like AI as a grammar and spell check tool to me is like almost as if you have like a person editing, and it's very much the same thing to me. But having AI either go through something that you wrote and fully change sentences, sentence structures, storylines, things like that, or just typing something into an AI chat and having it write something fully for you, I think is what scares me, I guess, because as a writer, I feel very easily replaceable to AI because there are even a lot of jobs out there that used to hire a lot of writers and now only hire people to train AI to do writing for them, which is a scary thought. But I know that AI pulls from other people's writing and it doesn't have a place that it could come from to create an experiences of its own to create something from. And so there's definitely a real difference between a person's writing and art and an AI generated writing or art.
No, I definitely totally agree. There's no soul in AI, so I have the whole like artificial part of the intelligence or a prefix of being artificial. But oh man, this is there's like a tickle in my brain of a thought that the first guest that I had on the show uh, said. He broke down like the etymology of artificial and how that meant something different than it does in modern terms, but I can't recall exactly anymore. But yeah, and repeating myself or regurgitating something that I've said on the show before, that the ethics or the unethical uh, behavior from Silicon Valley to just blatantly steal and then like have their lawyers fight it out in court later is just so like wacky to me that that's like really the world we live in, where people can the tyrannical giant corporations are just kind of like stepping on all the people who are like doing all the actual like heavy mental lifting, and these passionate souls that are like putting out their hearts out into the world, and then they're just like, yeah, this is ours now and we're gonna use it to make a product that you're never gonna see any of the benefit from the product, or if it like you're never gonna get any of the financial gains, or like you're never gonna get paid for the effort that you put out because you were just taking it and deal with our lawyers after the fact. It's just so fucking trash in my opinion.
Yeah, I completely agree, especially since like there are people that can do the same work and maybe better work, but to them it's more about efficiency and cost than anything else, and that's really heartbreaking.
Yeah, no, definitely. It's personally, I do love efficiency. I think it's very worthwhile to be efficient. But I'm a very slow person. I eat slowly. I walk slowly. I create with a very distinct voice and like process that's fairly slow. So I guess it's just the double-edged sword of efficiency that if it becomes too big of a value or you like are worshiping only efficiency, then it's gonna like kind of make you go for quantity over quality, and that's I like maybe that's why I'm slow because quality has always been something that's important to me. Rather have small amount of deep, meaningful relationships versus just a shit ton of like shallow like. Yeah, I know this person and we hung out like 2 times, but I don't really know them. They don't really know me. They don't care about me on a deep, like meaningful level. But yeah, that's my 2 cents. My 2 cents for what it's worth. I guess I'm just curious also, where are you insofar as like your actual like journey of how many times you've been around the sun or just like how old are you? 'Cause I'll go first. You don't have to feel too weird about it. Like I'm 27, so
Oh, cool. Yeah, I'm 23.
23. Okay, yeah, so fairly still in the beginning. I'm still fairly in the beginning. I haven't even made 30 trips or whatever, but I guess because I try to in a way like keep this related to like people's heroes journeys or just like their life's saga. Like what do you feel like has been the biggest life lesson or the most important piece of like wisdom that you've gathered from the artistic like process?
In terms of writing, so far, the biggest thing that I've learned is it's better to have written something, even if it's something you have to go back and fix many times over, than to have just stared at something for a while and then not written anything. Because I think that everything that I write is worthwhile, even if it's something that doesn't come out and isn't shared with anybody else. I still feel like it is worthwhile to have something done or something written. And there are definitely like places and cases where you can't or you don't have time or there are other priorities, and that's all okay. But when I write, I try really hard not to put any or not to put as much pressure on myself to write something perfect every time, because it is something that I can go back to and I can fix it or I can share it with somebody and ask them to help me fix it. But it's better to have at least something there to work with, because if there's nothing there to work with, then there just isn't anything there and nothing else will come of it.
Totally, totally. I found in my process of being of things that I've written or I'm trying to finish writing. It's just yeah, showing up and consistently getting something on the page is better than taking multiple weeks to get back to it or when your priorities shift and you got to focus your attention on other places because life just has a way of making you very aware of the thing you should be paying attention to when it's if you're not paying attention to it it'll find you, it'll be like hey like shake you, pay attention. I guess how you had said having people you can rely on to help you. I guess I was just curious, or that made me think of if you've had to deal with any not so constructive criticism, and if so, how that has impacted you, or what you were able to do with it. If there was any like actual useful information, or if it was just somebody like pouring negativity on you.
I feel like in all cases where I've asked or sought out like comments and criticism of my work, I haven't gotten anything that was just flat out like, this is bad, you should stop doing this or anything, which that's cool. That's nice. But especially I'm getting my master's in literature and writing, and I had a class in which everybody in the class would leave comments, and there were some comments that I really like took and put towards the work, and other comments where I would see them and it would be either very similar to a different comment or something that just didn't align with the piece that I was writing. And so sometimes I feel like it's okay to not take every single comment to heart and to not feel the need to put every single piece of criticism or comment back into your work. It just depends on what you want the piece to look like and be, essentially.
Yeah, it's a sometimes I feel like it's a tricky wicket, but so yeah, that's good that it's always at least been in some way for you constructive. I feel like I've gotten criticism, at least the annoying old story of this experience I had doing stand-up comedy, that somebody was just like, yeah, like just don't be cringy, and I'm like, that like what am I supposed to do with that? Like I thanks, I guess, like it just didn't help me in any meaningful way, but to my best of my ability, I think I've forgiven the person who said that, because there's just I can't control other people. You just kind of gotta let them do what they're gonna do, and hopefully they can live by the same value. Because I feel like some people are kind of controlling or too controlling for their own good. But neither here nor there. But just the thought that I'm having. I don't know really how to frame this within what we were just talking about. Just kind of shifting, I guess, away from like the present things of like the biggest lesson or the momentary to momentary things of criticism. I guess shifting to the future of, in your artistry, in your writing, do you have a telos or a telos from, I would say this from the Greek, the Aristotle, Aris- Aristotelian? Is there like an overarching end goal or a thing that you're hoping to achieve or a level of success that you endeavor upon or are embarking upon with your writing? Or is it totally for the catharsis? Like you just said you were studying, so I assume that there is a career that you're working on.
Yeah, my end goal ideally would be to be able to have writing as a career. It's something that I really love doing and I'm very passionate about it. And I've been trying to get work out there when I can in order to build that up. But I know that it's also very hard to live off of being an artist or a writer. And so my goal now is I think I want to teach writing or literature at a college level, hence the master's degree. And then I'll at least be able to have summers and holidays and weekends where I can write and I can do what I need to do in order to continue to pursue my dream while also being able to live and to do something else that I do enjoy.
Sure, sure. Not my not my path in life, but I get the draw of being tied into the education system and the schooling system, because it is nice to be able to have the summers off. And I don't know if it's in your on your horizon or part of your life's plan, but if you have kids, then you're at least for that like chunk of their lives where they're in school, that your schedules line up pretty nicely. Is that a thing? Do you have any desire for children? Just not really super related, but just curious.
Yeah, I don't know. I've been up and down with this. I think right now the thought of myself being pregnant sounds really scary, and there's a lot going on with that specifically, and like being feeling like sick or feeling your body change and having to go through all of this pain for so long. But I am not opposed to like adopting or fostering or things like that at the moment. And my mind could change later on. I am only 23, but that's I think where I'm at right now.
Sure, sure. Yeah, nature's definitely a harsh teacher. That's for sure. I've come to a point in my life where I try not to frame things too deeply in a negative light. I mean, obviously I'm not perfect, and go, especially as I was still smoking weed, it was harder. It's difficult to maintain a level, consistent mindset or energy, because the highs and lows of just being a stoner, it's just inherent in, like, you feel really out of your mind, and then not so great after the fact. Like weed hangovers essentially. Where the heck was I going with that? Oh yeah, mindset and how that was influenced by the other substances. Okay, I see. Yeah. There's a quote by Henry Ford, essentially, if you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. So I try to do the best that I can of keeping my flame of faith alive in my heart of hearts, that if it's possible for me to, and I genuinely trust that it is possible for me to make my living teaching or helping people grow and find their truest essence of who they are, that the universe, as I continue to make leaps of faith, will support me in that. It's simple but not easy, and there's definitely inherent risk in like endeavoring up and blazing a trail that isn't so treaded or walked by a lot of other people. It definitely feels safer to go to school and stay in that lane, but I personally can't do that. So that was a really long-winded way of saying I'm just different. And I guess this is a good one because this kind of removes any hopefully limiting factors for you. But if money wasn't a factor in your life, what or how would your life, like, what would you be doing, or how would you be living your life differently than right now, having to, I assume, struggle a little bit, do things that you don't want to do to be able to do the things that you want to do to make your living?
Yeah, if I feel like if money wasn't something that I had to worry about, a lot of things would look different. I think I would want to travel and see more, so then I can kind of incorporate that kind of thing into my writing, and I would love to just write and be a writer and have that be me in my life.
Yeah, yeah, that sounds about right. Sounds about right. Oh yeah, okay. So it's not super duper related to what had been talking about, but in a way, it's similar to not horror, but like spookiness, or how you had said spirits. So to spirituality or any type of religious motifs or ideas have any influence upon your writing?
I would say yes. I didn't grow up religious or anything, but I do love using like angels and demons as kind of supernatural creatures and kind of like either going with or against how different religions or different religious people see them as entities. One of the things that I have written, the first novel manuscript that I ever wrote was about angels and demons and how, like, what if heaven wasn't all that we thought it was, and neither were the angels? And same kind of thing with the demons. Maybe they do have like problems at their core or things that make them scary, but like what if neither party was kind of what was how it seemed? And I really liked kind of playing around with that a lot. And then I also have very recently gotten into witchcraft and that kind of thing. And so things like tarot cards or spell components and things like that have also influenced some of my writing as well. I just remember that I took a class on the Bible as literature in my undergraduate studies at CSU Chico. And I think that really also kind of framed how I saw the Bible. It was really interesting to look at it from more of a this is a book and this is literature standpoint versus like this is a religion that I need to believe in or I want to believe in.
Mm.
And I think like looking at it as like characters and symbology more than like true events is really interesting. And it really did like kind of shape how I saw religion itself somewhat, but also kind of like the Bible as a whole and its stories and its lessons.
Yeah, there's I think too much emphasis, or I mean, historically, people, you kind of just had to have something that tied society together in a very like strict or repressive manner, because it just was the only way to really function as a institution of truth. And that there's a lot of it's just the nature of human created structures of power, that they just grow and eventually become corrupt and metastasize and try to become tyrannical. And that religion or to be religious isn't inherently a bad thing. It's just like with any ideology, as you become dogmatic and can't, on good faith or give an honest take of when information that contradicts your most held sacred inner beliefs is like challenged or is like completely and patently able to be proved incorrect, like people like cult members when they're totally just on the Kool-Aid, then like nothing you say gets in there. It's it's a weird aspect of being a human being that like if you go about trying to change other people's beliefs, that a lot of the times they'll just chomp down harder and dig their heels in and won't change. So I personally I try to take it from like my own individual perspective that I'll try to be the change that I want to see in the world versus like expecting the rest of the world to change and be different just because I want it to be. Like it's just not really how the world actually works in my opinion. Oh yeah, there was because I had asked how these enormous ideas have influenced you or played any role in your development as an artist. Is there any other writers or things that influenced you? Like you had said, I can't remember his name, but your uncle, like that was a big either role model or mentor who helped you in your beginning growing fledgling phase, but other things that influenced you or brought you.
Yeah, I think something that has influenced me quite a bit lately is that over the summer, last summer, I read Bram Stoker's Dracula, which is one of kind of like the classics, which I don't end up normally reading or enjoying myself unless I have to read things like that during school or for a class. But I really did enjoy it, and I think it was a really good kind of like introductory step into Gothic literature. And I think that that has influenced some of my writing since then. I've even written like pieces regarding the two main female characters in Dracula and how, especially given the time period the original novel was written, they were two very like prominent characters in the novel, but they mostly like wrote letters back and forth and talked about their husbands or their suitors or things like that. And so I mostly like took those characters and put them in a modern setting where I could kind of dive into who they are more and give them more of a story than they did in the original novel. And then I also have very lately been influenced by a lot of kind of the writers in the writing community, especially like the literary magazine community has a lot of different people and a lot of different groups. And that's been really nice. I was able to join as an editor in a literary magazine called The Infinite Blues Review. And the creator of that magazine has also really influenced me quite a bit. And I do look up to her, even though she is younger than me. She always ends up impressing me and I like kind of encouraging me and all the rest of us to be the best people that we can be and the best writers that we can be. And I'm always just kind of like in awe of her and the rest of the community.
So that's awesome. It's so important to surround yourself with positive people that aren't gaslighting you through like whatever means that they're doing that, but are actually genuinely like trying to support you and believe in you and show you that you have the potential to do the things that you're setting out to do. Because the alternative is just not great. Somebody who's being the critic with no constructive backbone to it is just trying to tear you down and ruin you because they don't feel happy or they're unsatisfied in their life, so they just want to spit poison at you to try to bring you down to their levels. Not a oh, there's it's like you can take a horse to water, but you can't make it drink, or don't argue with an idiot because they'll beat you down or beat you down with like years of experience or something like that. The things that were sort of related or come to my mind is like these colloquialisms or just phrases or things or whatever they're called. I guess since I asked so generally earlier before about like just the overarching like uh telos. I'm curious if you have any type of like shorter term goals that you're hoping will lead to the completing that long-term goal. They get like a 1 year, 5 year kind of plan or trajectory. I mean, obviously finishing and getting the degree, becoming a professor or undergraduate, or it's the, I guess, the training professor or something, I guess if you could say. But is there anything, do any of those resonate, or do you have anything in your mind of like, hey, I'm gonna do this?
Yeah, especially since my graduate program ends in May, I'll have that master's degree, and that'll be really helpful in finding teaching jobs in which I'm a lecturer, which is not quite a professor because that requires an MFA or a PhD, but I'm still able to have like classes and be able to teach college level courses. And right now, I've got the opportunity through my program to teach a section of our general education and writing 101 class to college freshmen whose major aren't necessarily lined up with English or writing in any way. And so that's been a super cool opportunity so far. I've only been teaching for a week, so we'll see. But so far, I've really enjoyed it. And mostly my goal with that, especially if I want to continue this in the future, is to try to help these kids who aren't super familiar with writing, maybe, or have had different experiences with writing in the past. Just stop feeling afraid or feel less afraid of writing as something to do, because every major and every job and things like that, they all have their own forms of writing, whether it's like writing statements or lab reports or emails even. They need to be able to write and not feel anxious or nervous or scared when they're writing. And so I'm really hoping that through my teaching, or at least within my classroom, writing doesn't become something scary and stressful, but something that they can experiment with and play around with and become more comfortable with throughout time.
Awesome. Fantastic. Yeah, definitely being a role model, or giving that mentorship to the generations coming up is very important, because they have no idea what they're getting themselves into. Silly little kids. But it's just it's important to, in my opinion, as someone who sees himself as a steward, to be a steward and to be a leader, or have distilled wisdom in your own life to be able to share with the people that are looking for it or need it, because it's just who I am. Just who I am. The alternative is not a way that I would like to be. Being narcissistic, or only caring about myself, or only looking out, not being in service to other people. I just wouldn't feel like it would be as fun, you know? I guess what's coming to mind off the top of my head is just what's the most fun thing that you've like done with your art, or that you feel like was like you're like, oh, this is really great. I'm glad I did this. This was really cool.
A couple of different things come to mind, but first is kind of like joining the magazine community that I've found and kind of getting to know a bunch of different people in this realm has been really, really fun, because I've normally been like the one of my friends that, or of my family, that really is like a creative writer, and there aren't a whole lot of other people around me, like physically, that are writers, and so it's hard to talk about that kind of thing or to run something by them when they're also not super familiar. And so it's really nice to kind of have like those people around, and I do think it's like really fun to see all of these different especially new magazines pop up, and then all these different themes and different communities that I can go and see and follow and support, because I think one of my biggest things about like writing in the writing community is to just help other writers and uplift other writers and support them in any way you can, because I think that the alternative, which is like not supporting other writers and trying to like compete with them almost, is a far more negative thing than I want for my writing experience. And so it's really been super lovely to be able to send different submissions and to like share each other's writing and give feedback and comments that are all like constructive and coming from a good place.
Yeah, it's being open-hearted and honest, moving with integrity, and genuinely trying to build an empathetic two-way relationship with other people who are doing the same thing as he was. I think part of the reason anyone would even want to be a human being in the first place is the experience of friends or community that are all doing the same thing or doing a similar thing, slightly different ways. Is the one thing that makes us all the same is that we're completely unique, for sure. So, I guess final question, as it is tradition. If when I hit the stop recording button, we were both to either cease to exist or die, what piece of wisdom, knowledge, bit of information would you want to leave as a legacy if you could, if it was to be beamed out and be put into all the other people in the world, 7, 8, 9 billion, however many there are, or to all the listeners listening, like what thing is crucial to you at this moment that you think is people need on their own hero's journey?
I think that that would probably be something along the lines of like it takes so much more energy to hate something or someone than it does to either be indifferent or to love. And I think that if, I don't know, if more people put less energy into hate and more energy into either things that they love or people that they love, I just think that it would be so much better and there would be so much less like disrespect and hate towards other people that doesn't have a reason to be there.
I mean I agree. It's a fear bait like anger. Righteous indignation is important when you're being like suppressed or like tyrannized or like you need to be able to get angry and defend yourself, but abject anger of just like groups of people or yeah, basically like groups of people that are either different than you or what have you, that like that's like old social programming from when we were running around without clothes on, hunting and gathering, and in now that we're in the information age, definitely like what you just said is so perfect. It just like takes more to continue to like be at that level of always being angry or afraid of something versus just like being able to like settle down and calm down and like do the introspective work of like why do I hate this group of people or like why do I hate myself, like maybe I should love myself because it's is actually like efficient or like easier or simpler or feels better than the alternative of what you just said. I think my nugget of wisdom right now would be to almost in a similar thing of like take a moment, take a few deep breaths, like calm down, get centered, and try to like tap into your intuition and like allow that to be your guiding principle, your guiding light, your cynosure, your north star in your life, because there is something, great spirit, great mystery, that is not pulling you along, but like putting the things in your life to teach you the lessons that you need to know to be able to grow and change and evolve as a person. And that if you try to force things with your ego, that it might be more difficult or the lessons will just be more intense versus going with the flow of life. So on that note, Emily, if you want to shout out anybody or if you want to tell the audience where they can find your work or your social media handles.
Yeah, my social media handles for Instagram are at Hell's Descendants Novels and at Maximum Sparrow. And I'd love to give a shout out to Mia, who is the creator of the magazine that I'm with, because she just inspires me every day.
Phenomenal. I hope to, or if you have it in your capacity or heart to connect me with this person, I would love to be able to record an episode with her. And then I would just say that obviously all those things just appear on screen as she was saying them. So please go check out Emily's work if you feel called to do so. And I have to plug my own intuition course that by the time this episode is put on the internet for people to listen to or watch is in the description. And it's a free 3-week course, videos and meditations that you just watch and do every day. And it does exactly what my like thing that I just said you should be doing is like slow down, settle your internal ecosystem, and allow the inner guidance, the inner knowing to get back in the driver's seat and like help you guide you along your hero's journey. Emily, anything else before I land the ship?
No, I think that's it. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. I'm glad we could spend this time together. Smile more, complain less, never ever ever give up till you discern it's for your darndest best. Namaste. Have a great day. Slosh soon if it's nighttime soon. Like, share, comment, subscribe to keep the algorithm satisfied, and I will catch you on the either on the flip side or in the next episode, or maybe in real life sooner or later. I don't know. The future is now and is always changing. So thank you. Bye.